I think we will wait for 5 minutes.
Okay.
Another 2 or 3 minutes and we will start.
Well, Natasha, that's something I was wondered. Will we use the chat function?
Yes, I will tell about this at the beginning. Yes.
Yeah, good.
In a minute, as soon as we started.
Now that I finally figured out what it is.
Okay. Okay, let's start. Yes. Здравствуйте. Hello. ACTR has organized 5 national conversations on the teaching of Russian. And I would like to welcome you to the 4th conversation, Changes to the Pedagogy at the K-12 level. And please help me to thank our presenters for sharing today. And our presenters for today, Emily Mott Henry, American Consuls, Paavo Husen, Illinois Mathematics and Science Academy, retired, Ken Petersen, American Consuls, Katerina Ratushnyuk, Staten Island Technical High School, John Rock, Smith Middle School, Betsy Sandstrom, Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, Jen Shuffelton, Brighton High School, retired, Mara Sukholutskaya, East Central University, and Mark Trotter, Indiana University. I'm a moderator for the conversation today. My name is Nataliya Ushakova. I am a president of American Council of Teachers of Russian and a Russian teacher at Staten Island Technical High School. Our housekeeping details for today. We will use the chat function of Zoom. You can post questions that we will answer only at the end of the session. Also, we will use chat as a place to share documents and links. And our language is English, but in the chat, you could write in English or in Russian questions, which will be answered in the end of the session. And I would like to say thank you very much for Betsy Sandstrom, who will manage chat for today's conversation. Okay. Today we will talk how the American Council of Teachers of Russian and American Councils for International Education provide the opportunity for the students in Russian programs at the K-12 level. We will present materials for teaching Russian in the online classroom or regular classroom setting available for teachers and students. And we would like you to suggest topics for the discussions and presentations in the future ACTR webinars for the K-12 teachers, because we're planning to continue. And in September, we're planning our next webinar. And I would like to introduce to you Mark Trotter, co-chair National Olympiad of Spoken Russian, Russian in Eastern European Institute at the Indiana University. Mark, please. I will share the ACTR site page on the American Council website. Mark, you muted, yes.
Yeah, Nataliya, I had a request. If I might share the ACTR website on my screen, so I can click back and forth to different parts of it.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna go on to share screen right now then.
Please.
Let's see, I had it up here. Oh, I'm sorry, I just had it up here. Just a second. Just a second, something has gone wrong. Okay, that's the screen. Okay, go back. Okay, I think, there we go. All right. Can everybody see my screen? It should be at the website, Olympiad of Spoken Russian.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of twirling it up and down like that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm delighted to see so many participants in this webinar, especially at the end of the week, long, hard week of online Zooming and whatever. As Nataliya mentioned, I am the co-chair along with Ruth Edelman, who can't be with us today, of the ACTR Olympiad of Spoken Russian. My day job is as Associate Director of the Russian at East European Institute at Indiana University. I think many of you receive missives from me on occasion if you are on our Russian K-12 listserv. So I hope I'm a familiar name to at least some of you. So I'm going to talk briefly about the ACTR Olympiad of Spoken Russian. It was launched in the late 1960s, and it is one of the oldest secondary school foreign language competitions in the United States. The Olympiada, the Russian Olympiad is in fact an international movement. Olympiada competitions are held in a variety of countries throughout the world. Apart from the United States, this means Canada, India, Hungary, Egypt, a number of different countries. And if circumstances permit, at the end of every Olympiada season, at the end of every annual Olympiada season, top contestants in the National Olympiadas meet for a week of Olympiada activities in Moscow. But let's talk about the Olympiada as it would unfold in the United States from the perspective of high school teachers of Russian, not just high school, but middle school and high school teachers of Russian and their students. First of all, let's do some geography. I'm going to bring up the list of Olympiada chairs. As you can see, in the United States, Olympiada competitions take place in 16 different regions across the country. There you have them listed, along with the regional chair or chairs for each region. So Delaware Valley, which is basically the Philadelphia, South Jersey region, Illinois, Indiana, Maryland, Minnesota, New England, usually Massachusetts and Connecticut, sometimes Rhode Island and Vermont are included there. Welcome to New Hampshire and Maine if they care to as well. New Jersey, the New York City metropolitan region, and then upstate New York, North and South Carolina, combined with the Carolinas, Ohio, Tennessee, and Mississippi together, Texas, Virginia, Western Pennsylvania, where the competition takes place on the campus of University of Pittsburgh, and then the newest region, which that joined the Olympiada cohort of regional competitions last year, but unfortunately, owing to the COVID-19 breakout, they were not able to launch their first competition, but we're looking forward to that happening in 2021, and that is my colleagues up in Wisconsin. So competitions throughout the country. If you are not close by to any of these regions, I urge you to contact me so that we can look into possibly starting up an Olympiada competition in your region. Basically, to do so, we need two entities that we can conceivably describe as instructional programs, whether that be your sort of standard high school, middle school program, or a community program, community-based program, after-school program. Natasha, I see you raising your hand.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Okay, I'm gonna be very quick here. Most of the information you need about Olympiada is on this website. I'm going to skip to Olympiada regulations to show you where you can find a description of how the Olympiada unfolds. One of the unique features of the Olympiada is that students at any level of Russian can participate and be judged according to expectations for that particular level. So a student of Russian as a foreign language, mind you, I say foreign language, not heritage or native, who is enrolled in the first year of Russian study takes part on the level 1 competition, in second year of study, level 2, third year, level 3, et cetera, et cetera. However, we have 3 categories of contestants. There's the kind of standard Russian as a foreign language student with no previous exposure to Russian outside of the classroom. Then are there heritage speakers who have grown up with the language, but are probably not as proficient as a native speaker, and then native speakers. How we define those particular categories, you can see on the website or get in touch with me. Native speakers always compete on the highest level, level 5. Heritage speakers compete 1 level higher than where they would be enrolled in a regular Russian instruction program. Each contestant takes part in 3 commissions. Commission 1, which is the oral speech commission, that's speaking about yourself, speaking on everyday topics, sports, recreation, my home, my city, etc. Commission number 2, addressing Russian civilization, history, architecture, Moscow versus St. Petersburg, literature, music, and the like. And commission number 3, a more literary focused section, reading and discussion of a text, and then recitation of a poem memorized by heart at the higher levels with some discussion of that poem as well. The regional competitions take place in the spring. Well, in the spring is sort of generous definition, anywhere from mid-February into early June. At the regional competitions, which are most often held on the campus of a large university or college that offers Russian, the competition itself may be enhanced with a kind of cultural activity, a Russian film festival, Russian festivals of some sort, a Russian poster contests, concerts, even potluck dinners with Russian food and the like. Cost of the Olympiada, $6 per registered student. In most cases, schools will take on the cost of registration. For their participation in the Olympiada, students receive medals and certificates in accordance with their performance, gold, silver, bronze, honorable mention. Outstanding students at each competition can also be nominated to receive a special book prize that attests to their performance, not only at the Olympiada, but to their dedication in studying Russian for multiple years. So I am going to leave it at that. Please get in touch with me if you have any questions. My email address is right up here. I am also the regional chair for Indiana. But look through the website. The website also has preparation materials for each of the particular levels, but that's a topic that Mara is going to be speaking with you soon. Am I under 5 minutes?
Almost. Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, please, give me a chance to share my screen. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to pull out of my screen.
Okay, thank you. I would like to introduce, my computer is not cooperate with me very well, but I will share my screen to show it to you the page, Olympiada, and introduce Mara Sukholutskaya, who is a chair Olympiada of Spoken Russian Materials Revision Committee, East Central University. Mara, please.
Hello, добрый день. As Natasha kindly introduced me, I'm Mara Sukholutskaya. First of all, I want to salute the previous speaker, and I am sure all the following speakers who are proficient in speaking and clicking and opening pages. I have to acknowledge my partial профнепригодность, hoping that you will not report me to my administration. And with that, I will rely on Natasha's kind help to open the page, the screen with the Olympiada materials. As Mark has mentioned, Olympiada of Spoken Russian started in the 60s, and that's when the materials were originally, when the materials were originally developed. And they served successfully, and thank you to those who put a lot of time and effort in that work, in the creation of those materials. However, the time passed by, and several years ago, 4 years ago, the ACTR board, in its wisdom, decided that maybe it was time to look at those materials and maybe update them slightly without necessarily touching the structure, the original design, but just to update reading materials and look at them more closely. So the committee was created. Committee consists of 5 people, 4 of them, Betsy, Natasha, Ruth Edelman, and Lee Robbie, represent pre-college level, and I was invited to serve on this committee also. Even though I'm not a regional chair, I have a lot of experience of being on a Olympiada of spoken language. In that time, it was English for me in Ukraine, my home country. So the committee was created, and we started looking at those materials. And I look at the beautiful pictures in front of you, at your faces, and I understand that all of us, all of you, have a lot of experience in teaching Russian or maybe some other language. And because of that, you all understand, we all understand that there is no perfect textbook, there is no perfect test, there is no perfect set of reading texts. Each of us has an opinion, and sometimes a strong opinion, as to what should be taught, what should be read, what should be memorized. However, we had to work. The committee has a charge, had a task. I'm trying to make it in 5 minutes, Natasha. So the committee very carefully took a level by level, and so far we were able to do a level per year, because it really takes a lot of consideration, which text to select, which poem to select, which questions to ask. Russian culture and languages, you know, is such a vast territory, you know, vast piece of knowledge and history, really difficult to select. However, I do believe, so by today, we have completed level 1, 2, and 3, and level 4 is almost completed and will be posted, I hope, within 2-3 weeks on the ACTR website. So the committee has really tried very hard in selecting the materials and topics, poems and texts to reflect or to present the most comprehensive picture of the Russian, maybe literature, of Russian major figures and events. Even though I said that levels 1, 2, and 3 have been completed and are on ACTR, on the ACTR website, it's a work in progress. Each time we go back, we look at it and we find a typo, you know, or we want to come up with a better word maybe, or a better question. So it's a work in progress, and I hope, the committee hopes, that you will like what we have created so far, and you find it useful and also educational and enriching for your students, and maybe even for other participants, maybe for parents, for example. So with that, I want to encourage those of you who are not yet chairs of the regional Olympiadas to look anyway at our materials, and maybe you will find something that will be helpful for you in teaching in everyday classroom work. So with that, I thank you for your attention. I thank my colleagues on the committee for their dedication, and I would like to thank ACTR for providing that opportunity to all of us.
Thank you very much, Mara. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mara, for sharing information. And I'm sure it's very important for the field of Russian, especially in the high school, when we encouraging students to participate, to continue with Russian. And if you look at the picture, the young man who you just see on the left recently shared information with us. He's a participant of the New York State Olympiad and the National Olympiad in Russia, in Moscow. He shared with us that he was accepted to the Russian PhD program at the Princeton University. And I'm absolutely sure that ACTR Olympiada created this inspiration for him to continue Russian. And
I would also like to add, Natasha, that he was actually interviewed on Russian television. And yeah. I have a clip of that interview that ran on Channel 1 of your student and some others, if you're interested in seeing that.
It would be great to post it on ACTR website. Yeah, great.
I'll dig it up. Yeah, I showed it to my classes back when I was teaching.
Thank you very much for the idea, Mark. It's great. Thank you. I would like to introduce Emily Mott Henry, Senior Program Manager, American Council for International Education.
Thank you so much for the invitation to join you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yes.
All right. A moment. Right. Someone could give me a thumbs up if you could see my screen easily. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you again to ACTR for the invitation to join you this afternoon. I manage the NSLY administration at American Councils. I've been in this role since 2012. So I'm pleased to share some of our recent experience on NSLY. So I'll do a brief overview of NSLY. I know many of you on the call are familiar, and we very much appreciate many of your support for the program over the years. So I'll do a quick overview, give some attention to our Russian programs. And then I'll also provide an overview of Virtualnessly, which was launched in fall 2019, which was frankly helpful for us for recent times with COVID. Then I'll discuss how we've pivoted some of our programs due to COVID and the impact that COVID has had on our programming and how we're adjusting to that. And then I'll focus most of my remarks on some lessons learned we've had in the virtual space, as many of you are probably working on virtual programming yourself and instruction yourself and thinking towards the future. Right. So for those of you who aren't familiar with NSLY, again, I'll give a brief overview. It's the National Security Language Initiative for Youth. We provide scholarships to US teens to study critical languages. Until 2019, that has always been in overseas immersion programs. But again, we started a virtual program in fall of 2019 to complement our traditional overseas immersion programs. It's a program of the US Department of State's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. And for Russian and most of our languages, we offer summer and academic year programs. But for some languages, just summer programs. The program started in 2006. And American Councils has served as the prime grantee for this federally funded program since 2008. And we act as the lead administrator and implementer. We work with several other exchange organizations as well as universities as implementing partners for our overseas program experiences for students. When students apply to NSLY, they apply for a language, not a particular location. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And to summarize the 4 goals of the program, we're aiming to promote international dialogue through shared language, to promote a cadre of Americans with language and cultural understanding for national security and economic competitiveness, to incentivize language learning in the United States, and to provide a lifetime of interest in language and culture. So hoping to spark that interest so students continue to study the language post-program, which according to most of our alumni data is very much the case. Our students overwhelmingly continue to study the language. So what is the traditional overseas NSLY experience like? We do emphasize building language proficiency. So during our academic year programs, there's at least 10 hours of formal language instruction and 20 hours a week during our summer programs. So our summer participants receive at least 120 hours of language instruction during our overseas programs. We aim to create and support an immersion environment abroad where students frequently apply what they're learning in the classroom in their host community and with their host families. Of course, that cultural learning component is critical to the language proficiency, as you all know. So we offer many opportunities to enhance that understanding with a focus on contemporary culture, traditional culture, arts, cooking, etc. All of our participants have a host family experience of some kind to support their immersion learning. Community service is a requirement for most of our programs, but not all. At present, we've suspended that requirement for some locations, but most of our students do engage in community service in their host community. And all of our programs aim to provide a lot of peer-to-peer engagement with their overseas counterparts through tutoring, community service projects, and other activities. So some fast facts about the program is, we're currently providing programming for 8 languages listed there on the slide. We've had 15 host countries to date. Since 2018, we've been supporting about 650 participants a year. There was a period where we were supporting about 550 a year, but fortunately we received increased funding in recent years and have been supporting more students. Our figures this year are a little bit different, which I'll talk about later, but we've been happy to support over 550 students the last few summers. Our alumni community is now over 6,000 strong, and they're quite active. And for those of you who aren't familiar, the program really does cover all program-related expenses. So we are proud that Nestle Y can create an accessible international learning experience for students of all different types of backgrounds. So taking a closer look at our Russian program, since I know that is of interest to all of you, these have been our overseas immersion locations for the past few years. So Estonia, Latvia, Moldova, and Moscow and Kirov in Russia. We were planning for an additional site in Russia this upcoming year, but obviously that was curtailed with travel activity, but we do hope to expand our programming in the Russian Federation once again. And it is somewhat late breaking news and not yet public on our website, but we will be expanding our Russian programming to Central Asia in summer 2020, and we are exploring some other locations. Excuse me, it's summer 2021 and some other locations potentially beyond. So we're really excited about that development and the support from the State Department to expand our programming locations. I know this data might look a little historic at this point, but I did want to share some of our post-program oral proficiency results compared to pre-program. Really, this graph would look just about the same as if I were to update it from recent years' data. But we're really proud of what our summer participants have been able to achieve historically. Our threshold and our expectation for our partners and our teachers is that any student without any prior experience in the target language reach novice high after the end of a 6-week program. And for the most part, we've been successful in doing that. And our other participants, historically, we've been able to allow students to make maybe 1 sub-level step, sometimes 2 to 3 in a summer, which has been amazing. Our academic year statistics we're also very proud of. And again, this chart would look very similar, even if I were to give you updated information. But most of our academic year students do have a little bit of background, if not a lot of background in the language before they begin the program. So we do support all language levels. But as you can see, there is a nice shift with the post-program results. And I'll say too, those superiors that you'll see on the right side of your screen, those have been primarily from Russian academic year students. So I hope you feel proud of them to achieve the superior with an academic year program. All right, so now I'll move to Virtualnessly Y, which is an initiative we launched last fall. We're quite proud of what we've been able to achieve with that program. And as I mentioned, of course, we feel really lucky we had that opportunity for many reasons, but of course it helped us quite a bit as we made some pivots for Nestle Y in relation to COVID. So we launched the program in fall of 2019. We've been focusing on Arabic, Chinese, Korean, and Russian. And the focus is truly on beginner level instruction. So we're really aiming to introduce these languages and cultures to the students and hopefully demystify language learning for those who might not have otherwise had the opportunity. And hopefully, introduce the concept of study abroad to these students as well. So we're very much hoping, again, that they'll continue to study the language and culture post-program. We worked with experienced teachers. So American Council's hired experienced teachers for these languages, most of whom did have some experience working in an online space. And they were paired with approximately 10 US-based students. So it was essentially forming like a digital classroom. We were aiming to work in line with the ACFA World Readiness Standards, as well as Asia Society's Global Competency Standards, to add those sort of virtual exchange elements. For the last year, we had 131 participants, and for the upcoming cycle, we're expecting 150 participants across all the languages. So one thing I want to share that I'm very excited about is there was a 300% increase in applications for Virtualnessly for the 2020 fall programming compared to last year. So I think we can all feel heartened that even though students are getting a lot of Zoom time, that they're still interested in language learning in a virtual environment. So what is the Virtualnessly program look like? We do require synchronous instruction. And for our fall programming, that is 2 90-minute sessions a week for 10 weeks. So 3 hours of instruction each week. We do strongly encourage asynchronous collaboration space outside of that regular class time. I'll talk about the benefits of that later, but essentially having either an LMS or a space for students and teachers to collaborate outside of class time and sort of build a community. The cultural learning opportunities from peers and featured guests has been a really critical component of Virtualnessly. So complementing the language learning, getting students excited about cultural elements of their target language, and seeing that firsthand with mainly live guests or live opportunities to learn more about the culture. So that might include guided tours of local markets, museums, maybe a host family. That has been an exciting new element. And of course, there is still homework projects and language assessments. So here's some nice feedback from Virtualnessly from our 2019-20 program. This is post-program survey data. So you can see here that there is certainly a high level of perceived gains in the target language and culture. The students do feel more confident to apply for future Nessly opportunities and see the direct correlation with a future career. And they envision themselves continuing studying the language and hopefully studying abroad in college. All right. So how have we been impacted by COVID-19? It's like so many of us in so many industries in the US and abroad. This, of course, has had a big impact on international education. So these are just a few ways we're dealing with, sort of the lack of travel in our traditional overseas immersion programs. So our upcoming academic year programs will have a virtual start. This was just decided a few weeks ago by the State Department. So again, building off of our lessons learned, we're aiming to provide, solid part-time, essentially, language instruction to our academic year students. And hopefully we'll be able to travel with the students to the overseas locations in January. We've learned a lot of lessons, which I'll talk about shortly, related to virtual programming, and hopefully that'll inform us and help us provide a good experience for our academic year students in preparation for their traditional overseas immersion. We did bring home our academic year students early. We sort of had a phased approach, considering we had students in Korea and China. So we had a phased approach for our returns, but the students were all home by late March, and we did continue instruction to allow them to have some closure and completion to their experience, and in most cases to complete their capstone projects. And we did roll out a thorough virtual reentry programming series, which included several sessions on continued language learning, how to think through their language study for their careers, and just working through the reflection and reentry process. And unfortunately, we also had to pivot our summer 2020 programs to what we're calling the virtual summer intensive. So we're currently in what we're calling VSI right now with the students that were competitively selected through the traditional process. We're happy to support 450 students. We made more offers than that, I'll be clear. We were aiming to support about 500. We have had a few attrition issues, but in general, we're very pleased that these 400 plus students are very eager to be in the program. We're working with our existing host institutions overseas. I believe all of our host institutions from summer 2019 are working with us this summer. So for the most part, the instruction is taking place outside of the US and with some teachers in the US. So that has been complicated from a time zone perspective, but it has been really enriching. The students have 50 hours of synchronous activities in a 5-week program, and there's a lot of activities outside of the designated class time. It's been a lot of featured guests, which I talked about earlier. We have included peer tutoring with overseas tutors and have a class size of 5 to 10. Natasha, I know I have just a few minutes left, so I will go to my final slide. I wanted to talk through a few of our lessons learned. I'll do my best to do so really quickly. We could talk about this for hours, but just want to emphasize a few things, and I'll cut short back what my remarks would have been since I'm short on time. But I will say that we have made it a point not to underestimate the level of training for both students and teachers in preparing the virtual programs. Those trial classes before regular classwork starts is really important. We've made it a point to have designated teacher advisors to support all of our virtual teachers, since of course it's been really challenging to transition to a virtual environment when you're used to teaching in person. We remain really focused on interactive instruction and finding ways to use in-person methods in a virtual space, so breakout rooms, using authentic materials in different ways, drawing features, etc. And we don't underestimate the training that the students will need on new platforms. So many students, I think, are now pretty familiar with Zoom, but not all are. So we've made it a point to ensure that they're not as tech savvy as we might assume that they are. We have also tried to make it a point to include tactile materials, even with virtual instruction. So that has been somewhat complicated to arrange in the COVID environment, but we are, mailing materials and ensuring some physical materials that the students can touch are still incorporated. And we've also, again, emphasized the cultural elements of the program to truly make it a virtual exchange. So 20 to 30% of our contact hours are with guest speakers or peer tutors. And really a can-do approach has gone a long way for us in this element of the programming. Really most of the components of our overseas programs have been able to be transitioned to a virtual exchange. So host family visits, cooking classes, just so many cultural components have transitioned with a lot of practice and time, but they have been transitioned to this virtual environment. So it's been really encouraging to see how excited the students have been, but also just how much we really can do in this environment, even though of course we all hope to get back to overseas programming soon. So I know I'm short on time, so I will end there, but thank you again for the invitation, and we'll look forward to any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Emily. Your presentation is very encouraging for all teachers to share this information with the students to apply to and participate in the program. Thank you very much. Questions we will ask in the end. Now, our next presenters, and I really would like all presenters to follow the time limit to be sure that everyone has a chance to talk. And did you see my screen? Yes. I would like to introduce Paavo Husen and John Rock, co-chairs of ACTR National Russian Essay Contest. Would you like to share the screen, John? Yes?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Rook, Russian and Spanish teacher in Glastonbury, Connecticut. Also, as part of the NRC committee is Paavo Husen. Thank you for allowing the NREC committee to present this afternoon. Paavo and I will present some general information, and then we'll focus a little bit more time on some key information and key issues facing the contest this year. Let's see. The NREC provides U.S. high school students and middle school students the opportunity to demonstrate their writing proficiency in Russian. This year, the contest will celebrate its 39th year. Students write essays in Russian, about 2 pages, and participating teachers must be ACTR members. Our committee and co-chairs, Paavo, who's responsible for registrations, results, myself, I do the judging for both rounds, Philip Stossberg, medals and certificates, and then of course Jane, she's the former NREC chair, and we also consult with her regarding topics and issues, and we're going to be inviting her soon to a meeting to ask her about trying to possibly do an online contest, considering this is one of the things I'll talk about later. Most importantly, our philosophy and approach regarding this contest. We believe that the contest should be accessible for all, for and by all students of Russian. Accommodations are made for students with special education needs. Students can demonstrate a level of learning and mastery at all levels of study, not just, from beginner to native speaker. Students should be rewarded for their efforts and diligence in learning Russian. And then students should also feel proud, encouraged, and empowered to continue their study of Russian language and culture. This past year's topic was Работа, профессия, карьера в моей жизни. Topics are selected collaboratively and written by our team. We also include guiding questions to assist students in organizing their thoughts when they're writing their essays. The topics are generally accessible to all levels of students, from beginner to more advanced. The topic for this year is still TBD, and one thing else, we're going to be meeting a little in mid-August to start discussing the topic and how to administer the contest this year, considering COVID and some other challenges. Teachers decide which levels are most appropriate for their students based on their study of Russian and exposure to Russian. These are the different levels that we have: beginner, intermediate, advanced, native speaker, with also subcategories for heritage. And all of this information is available on the ACTR website. So I don't need to go into much more detail there. As I mentioned, I'm responsible for judging. Teachers submit all the essays along with the assigned certifications. We have about 10 to 12 judges on a yearly basis who review about 100 to 130 essays. There are a couple of judges on this call right now, like Mara and others. Thank you very much for your participation, and also the teachers. Judges assign medals based on a criteria for gold, silver, bronze, honorable mention. Students receive medals for gold, silver, bronze, and then they all receive certificates. And then of course, gold medal recipients at the higher levels go on to a second level of judging at the Pushkin Institute. So some trends that we've seen in historical data. So our registration numbers have, pretty much been around 1,300 to 1,400, so pretty consistent. We've seen some high school programs close, but then we've also seen some other high school programs open and participate in the contest. We've also seen an increased participation by Russian schools. These are, sort of special schools that happen after the school day or on Saturdays. So it's not just, traditional schools. We've also seen an increase in printed Russian versus cursive, especially at the lower levels. So maybe it just takes a little bit longer for students to learn the cursive. And then we've also seen an increase in the number of students at the intermediate heritage level. This has doubled since 2012. The number of native speakers has pretty much remained constant, for the past, 5 or 6 years. Now, some challenges that we're facing for this year. Of course, the effects of COVID-19 pandemic. There's been schools that have closed, schools that are only doing online learning or a combination of hybrid learning. So we have to think about an in-person contest versus an online contest. Now, traditionally, we've had a preference for written essays that are not typed. So, for example, if it were to be an online contest, then essays might be typed there. Also how to administer the contest to schools that are online in the fall. This is a challenge for us to discuss at our meeting in mid-August. How would teachers monitor and control the essay writing, if it's going to be something online? So like say an exam session on Zoom. Now our contest occurs in the fall. Around, before Thanksgiving. So we've talked about possibly maybe putting it in January or maybe a little bit later, but then there could be a conflict with the Olympiada of Spoken Russian, which we don't want to happen. We're always trying to expand our participation of Russian programs in the US. We're also talking about increasing our costs from $4 to $5. And then, like I mentioned before, we're going to be meeting in mid-August to discuss all of this stuff. Please feel free to ask Paavo and myself any questions right now. I'm not monitoring the chat right now because I'm looking at the presentation. We're very happy to receive topic suggestions from participating teachers. And then also, if you have any ideas about, how to proceed, we're very open to suggestions and recommendations. And then this is the contact information for the co-chairs. I will be posting this presentation in the chat, and then I'll also post a link to the NRAC on the ACTR website. And that is actually the extent of my presentation.
Thank you.
Paavo, would you like to add anything?
You did just a dynamite job, John. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Paavo, for your collaboration on this presentation too. So,
thank you very much. It's a humongous work, and we really, all teachers appreciate what you're doing, and we're trying to be on time. And thank you very much for your humongous work. And our next presenters, I would like to introduce Katerina Ratushnyuk and Nina Vaihanovsky. They will talk about the ACTR Russian Scholar Laureate Award.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Katerina Ratushnyuk and I'm co-chair for the ACTR nomination of Russian Scholar Laureate Award. And I had the pleasure working with Natasha on this nomination for several years. Now I understand she's very busy with more responsibilities to add with being president of ACTR. And I would like to continue being co-chair for this award. And as well, I have another colleague of mine, Nina Vaihansky from Bruriya High School, to join me this year. If Nina, could you please introduce yourself? And Natasha, if I could please try to share the slide.
Hello, everybody. My name is Nina Vaihansky. I teach in a high school, Russian 1 and Russian 2. And it's my absolute pleasure to work with Katerina and help as much as I can with this Russian Scholar Laureate Award. Okay. Katerina, take it away.
Okay. So again, Hello, everyone. And as you all know, we have all the nominations and awards and all the possibilities on how to distinguish our Russian students posted on ACTR website. And if you go to ACTR website, and we will try to share this link again on our chat with everyone. There had been a few changes within the last years on the award. First, what is it? That is an annual award, and how on ACTR designates outstanding students in every Russian program that is taught in high schools throughout the nation. So who can participate in this award? Each teacher, and especially in collaboration with administrators of the school, they nominate one outstanding student during the year that would represent their Russian program, who actually is being the most brilliant student this year. And of course, we have the students, and we would like them to be recognized. And this again should be done with collaboration of the administrator of the school, because either assistant principal or headmaster of the school should make an official nomination for the student. Who can be nominated? Only sophomore and juniors can be nominated on this award. And I would like to say a few words about this. First, we already have students who dedicated certain amount of time and years of studying Russian language and culture. And of course, we would like to nominate students who would take positive advantage of this award before they apply to college. So it is important that no seniors, let's say, can be nominated, because they would not be able to receive this award, because the nomination happens in the beginning of the new year, and then the certificate and the label pin, as well as the official recognition for the principal and the teacher, would be mailed only in the fall of the same year. So let's say if your senior is nominated, he wouldn't be able to receive this award because he or she would not be a student of the school anymore. So it is important to understand that only sophomore and junior students can be nominated for this award. As it states on the ACTR website, within several years, we were trying to organize electronic nomination for the award. So what that means. So if you go to the website on ACTR, you would see that the new tab that says submit the nomination. When you click to this tab, it would bring you to Google form. And then you would be able to proceed with your nomination. What do you need to do for that, and what do you need to have? So again, we would like to encourage administrators to nominate together with Russian teachers, because you need to have the nomination letter from the principal, as well as the picture of the nominee with you while you are applying for this nomination, when you are filling in this nomination form. So this would facilitate greatly, and I would like to thank you, all the teachers who are following these instructions that help us a lot to proceed with the nominations, because we would need, we need to write 3 different letters, one for student to notify him or her that he or she would be receiving this award this year, and his or her school nominated them for this prestigious award. The second letter is for the principal, congratulating other nominant and laureate, and as well as recognition of the teacher and great work the school does in their Russian program. And the third letter is a letter of recognition for the teacher, for their hard work preparing such an outstanding student to represent their school for this award. Okay, and this is one of the just pictures I would like to show with you. This is a picture from our school, how this award is recognized. So as I would like to say, I teach with Natasha Ushakova in Staten Island Technical High School, and we have 1,300 students who study only Russian. And when we nominate for this award, that is considered a very prestigious award in our school, an annual award, and it is recognized by the principal. Sometimes it's done on a Russian event that we have all together, and we unite and we'll celebrate actually all the ACTR awards and contests that our students participate in. So that is actually a great opportunity for the school, again, to get together and celebrate the Russian program. And I'm sorry, I have difficulties here with my computer. Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm lost a little bit with Zooming. You see what Summer does. We need to practice it again. Okay, so I look forward and to getting more awards this year. I understand this year it was quite challenging for all of us to follow all the contests and nomination, especially toward the end of the year. And I would like to thank you, all the teachers who participated. We have more than 30 nominees this year. And please try to remember to submit the nominations. Try to submit the nominations by June 30th. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Katya. It's really, really important, important event in our school, and I'm sure in many schools too. I would like to introduce, one second. I would like to introduce now our next presenter. I'm just a little bit trying to hurry up a little bit, because I'd like everyone who is presenting today give time that to have an opportunity to talk. And I would like to introduce Ken Petersen, Technical Director, Online Learning and Assessment, American Council for International Education. Ken, you would like to share your screen, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And Nataliya, I have my timer here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure
Thank you.
Time limit. I'm starting it now. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Meanwhile, I also just put a link to the presentation itself in chat. So if anybody wants to grab a copy of it, you certainly can. Let me go ahead and share that. Okay. Well, it's nice to see so many familiar faces this afternoon. I see a few new faces, but I'm sure many of you are very familiar with Newell. Some of you may not be as familiar. So I'm going to kind of go through fairly quickly, a condensed 15-minute version of a general overview of sort of the history of Newell and some specifics about the exam construct. But I'm going to focus also a bit on what this year has brought to the Newell and how we've responded to that, and what our plans are for the future. So Newell, it's a functional language-based assessment, right? And we have several different languages that we offer this test in, and we follow a timeline. We take a lot of our cues from the College Board and the AP tests, and we have since the beginning. And we first administered a prototype Russian AP test back in 2004, and since that time we've added Arabic, Korean, and Portuguese to our portfolio. And for many, many years, the Russian test was referred to as the prototype AP exam, right? Which sort of graduated into the NUAL along with the other languages, that in that portfolio. We do test all 4 skills: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. And we test on a range on the ACTFL level scale from novice high to intermediate high in reading and listening, and students can be rated as high as advanced low in speaking and writing. Just a quick note about that is that when we're developing items, multiple choice items for reading and listening, it's easier to sort of constrain the level by the items that you're given. Once we opened it up to the productive skills, we initially sort of capped it at intermediate high, but we found that we had many students performing beyond that, because though the task may be geared towards eliciting intermediate high, if that student is an advanced speaker, it really felt sort of unfair to sort of artificially cap it at that. So we've sort of expanded the ceiling for the productive skills to acknowledge those, advanced low performances that we see. And the test is designed for both heritage and non-heritage learners. So as I said, it started as the prototype AP and eventually sort of evolved into the NUAL languages. And we, from the very beginning, have worked very closely with the College Board on this. Dr. Dan Davidson, who is on this call, sat on the World Languages Committee at the College Board for many years. And the College Board certainly recognized that there was a need to serve these sort of less commonly taught languages. However, they don't want to take on tests that don't have huge populations. And so we sort of work together with them to say, look, we really care about Russian and these other languages, and we want to give these students the opportunity to demonstrate what they can do across all 4 skills at the end of their high school career, so that we can provide a pathway for them to continue studying Russian and these other languages as they sort of bridge that high school to college divide. And also to provide those in the higher education institutions a standardized, very recognizable measure for what level the students are coming in. And here you see the College Board endorsement. It's a fairly full-throated endorsement that we work together with the College Board to produce. And essentially they ask higher level institutions to treat NUAL scores as the same they would as an AP score. Now, no single university is obliged even to recognize AP recommendations. And we are not as well known a sort of brand name as AP. So it often takes a lot of sort of advocating for students, talking with those universities, and the College Board has been a great partner with us in that they will step in and make sure that, to the best of our abilities, we can get those students to get their scores recognized in terms of credit and placement. So across these languages, a key part of this initiative has been working with partner organizations in each of the languages. Of course, ACTR from the beginning has been involved with the Russian exam, but in Portuguese, we work with the Camões Institute. In Korean, it's ICANN, and Arabic, the Qatar Foundation. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with, all of you I'm sure are familiar with the ACTFL scale. And, so we're, again, we're targeting sort of the novice mid up through intermediate high and even advanced low in the productive skills. But the tests are criterion referenced. They're not based on what students know, what they've memorized, what factual knowledge they know, but rather given exposure to authentic texts, exposure to authentic listening prompts, the opportunity to speak, the opportunity to write, what can they do with the language, right? So we're really focusing on proficiency and how the students can perform across each of the 4 skills versus having some specific knowledge that they're expected to know. And of course, you know, all of our claims and evidence are based on the Framework for World Languages and the ACTFL Proficiency Guidelines. So the 4 components of NUAL, again, we test across the 4 skills, and this year, again, following cues from the College Board and the AP, given that the entire model of this administration had to change very suddenly, we made the decision to shorten the exams, right? So reading this year in 2020 was 22 items, and the students had 30 minutes. Listening, also 22 items, and I'm sorry, that should be 20 minutes, not 15 minutes on listening. That's my mistake. Speaking, they had 1 task and 15 minutes to perform it, and writing, similarly, they had 1 task and 15 minutes versus almost a 3.5-hour test that we've given traditionally in the past when we're dealing with a lab-based administration where we have physical proctors on hand, we have the labs all set up and reserved. This year, we had to go into this test knowing that we didn't have the luxury of bringing the students together into a lab-based environment, and we had to be doing this testing out of their homes and try to ensure the same level of security and integrity to the test. And just a note, you can find some sample items at exams.actesting.org/samples. So a little bit about the scoring model and the recommendations. The NUAL score is a composite score that is a sort of an aggregated score where each of the 4 individual skill scores are subscores count equally towards their final composite score. Much like an AP test, it's a scale of 1 to 5. And you can see the placement recommendations that are here. So if 5, the recommendation is first semester of 3rd year at the university level. And down the line, 4 is 2nd semester, 2nd year, etc. Again, each college and university has its own policies for determining the use of the scores. And so just looking, you know, back over the years at how students have done on the Russian NUAL, the majority of the students, the slight majority, score a 5. So students who come into this test tend to be very well prepared and typically do very well. And if you look at the combination of 4 and 5, that is almost, you know, the vast majority of the students are scoring up at those very high scores. We've had almost nobody scoring as low as a 1. It's a very small subset. So, I mean, that tells us that the students who are coming to this are taking it seriously, they're well prepared, and they're performing very well on this test. I do not have any numbers for 2020. We are going to be releasing those scores at some point in late August. And so we don't have any even sort of broad trends that we're prepared to sort of announce publicly at this point. So we're just looking at a combination of years past here. So this year was very different for us. We, for many years, have administered this test in following a very strict protocol wherein labs get set up prior to the testing date by somebody at the school, typically a lab technician, somebody who's going to make sure that they have all their headphones and their microphones and everything all set up and ready to go. This year we were unable to do that, and we had to sort of push that onto the students themselves. we did a number of things. We had a series of orientations in the form of Zoom webinars where we, sort of went over all of the specifics about the do's and don'ts of setting up your home for a secure test administration. We, required that they be alone in a quiet room, that they have both an internet connected computer to take the test on that has working speakers or headphones and a working microphone, but also a phone, tablet, or laptop to be used for remote monitoring. So as students came in to take the Newell this year, we had a Zoom session for each day of administration that we ran, and students would have to be checked in individually. We would do that in breakout rooms where they would show a photo ID, they would scan their workspace, making sure that they didn't have any of the listed prohibited items and that they had everything all set up properly. And at that point, they would leave their camera basically at a view something like this, where we could see their computer screen. We've done a face-to-face check-in and identified that it is in fact them taking the test. And then we keep an eye on them the entire administration, but we also then serve in the role of what the typical proctor would be, is if they have any technical issues, if they have any problems or questions throughout the test, they know that we're there not just to keep an eye on them, but rather we're there to support them, to make sure that if there are any technical issues, we get them worked through it. And I'm happy to report that by and large, it was a fairly smooth administration, given that we had to pivot so quickly to a completely different model. I should note, though, that this year our numbers were down a bit. Last year we had 666 students. This year we had roughly 400. I think largely because there was so much, there was so much uncertainty, and for a brief time we weren't even sure if the Newell was going to go forward. But as quickly as we could, we put the new information up and got that out to the students, and we still managed to test 400 students in Russian this year. So just very quickly, I have 2 minutes left, so I'm gonna move very quickly here. And you do have a copy of this presentation as well. So again, we're focusing on general proficiency, reflecting the College Board's World Languages Framework. We use authentic texts for the reading and the listening. In the speaking and the writing, we put students in very situations where they're expected to speak in a very interpersonal way, that is sort of geared towards and appropriate for high school level students. In the reading, again, authentic texts, we have things of personal information, basic needs, social conventions, and tasks. And again, we're looking at interpersonal and interpretive modes in terms of the standards. Similarly with the listening, the listening prompts are authentic prompts, often announcements, radio segments, voicemails, etc. And the questions are all in English. We're focusing on their ability to either read or listen to an authentic prompt, and then answer probing questions that demonstrate their ability to comprehend at a particular level on the ECTL scale. Speaking, they do it through their computer. They're given a single task. They're given time to prepare. They speak, and then they upload their content. And likewise with writing, they're given a prompt. They're given time to think and prepare, and then they write an open-ended, very short essay that they submit that is rated by our raters. All of our items, the multiple choice items, we look at very carefully in terms of how they discriminate at the particular levels. And this is how we sort of establish our difficulty level for each item. I'm not going to go into detail on this because I'm already over time. Students also receive a score report. They basically receive a link to a secure PDF that they get that includes their composite score, their sub-scores, as well as descriptors for the sub-scores that they received in each of the skills. That's it. I'm done, Nataliya. Sorry, I went 1 minute over.
Thank you very much, Ken. It's a great presentation, which answered a lot of questions that our participants had regarding new exam. And thank you.
Can I just say one last thing? In terms of moving forward in the future, obviously we would like to move back to sort of our traditional model, but we are going to be flexible, seeing what the coming waves of COVID look like.
Thank you. Thank you very much. May I share my screen, Ken? Yes.
Yes, I will stop my share.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter is National High School Slavic Honor Society, and Betsy, Sandstrom, to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. And I'm just so impressed with all of the programs provided to pre-college students and teachers and schools in Russian. It's just phenomenal, the opportunities that we have available to all of us. Slava is one of those opportunities. It is the National High School Slavic Honor Society, and it is open to students who are studying Russian. There are guidelines for which students can be inducted because it is an honor society. So GPA plays a role, length of study plays a role, but all of that we can provide to you soon on the ACTR website if you do not already have a chapter of Slava. We hope you do. But if you don't, you will see listed on the slide is Olga Gota, the Executive Secretary Treasurer, and our Slava Gmail address. And Olga is really happy to answer all of your questions, help you set up a chapter, and help you to get your members inducted this year, even if your school is virtual learning, hybrid learning, in-school learning, whatever program you might have coming up. Please do reach out to us at that Gmail address, and Olga can help you with those details. We're really happy that ACTR is now working with Slava. We originally were with ATSIL, but most high school teachers and programs are more connected to ACTR. So we're really grateful that ACTR has taken us on as one more program that they offer in their long list to high school programs. This year might be more important than any other year to have a Russian Honor Society at your school. I know that several chapters around the country are already looking to see maybe what kind of service programs or opportunities they can provide during the upcoming school year, because it will look different for everybody. And since it is an honor society, service is part of that. So we look forward to hearing about some interesting projects your schools might be doing. Please let us know, and we will be happy to write about them in the ACTR newsletter. Thanks. That's all I have to say for Slava.
Thank you very much, Betsy. Our time is getting smaller and smaller, and we are, we would like, as we announced at the beginning, we would like to share materials which is available for the online and in-class learning. And Betsy, could you please start?
Sure. So what Natasha is referring to are 3 modules that we developed working with American Councils for International Education. What we were hearing through different Star Talk summer programs and professional development programs, even ones that were provided by American Councils in their Washington offices, we were hearing from teachers that while there are textbooks available, there were there was really a small amount of material available for pre-college students at the intermediate level that were appropriate. There are definitely textbooks available, but they're not always appropriate for pre-college students, and we're looking for materials that are age appropriate. So what we did was we went to American Councils, our colleagues there, and they helped us by applying for a Star Talk grant. And several of us worked together. You'll see our names there: Betsy Sandstrom, Jane Shuffelton, Katerina Ratushnyuk, and Nataliya Ushakova. And we developed 3 online Russian language learning modules. And now my colleagues will tell you about the different parts to these modules. They are all free, online, with lesson plans already built in for you. So if you are looking for something for this school year, I would encourage you to take a look at these materials. You can, of course, scaffold up, scaffold down, to meet the needs and levels of your students.
Thank you, Betsy. And I will talk briefly about the text which we choose. These three modules based on one story, we could say, but all of them could be used separately. Module 1, it's exchange program. Module 1, preparation for the trip to Russia. Module 2, arriving to Moscow and exploring the city. And Module 3, attending school in Moscow, meeting peers. And here I have an examples of those modules. If you could look at the left side of each text on the top, you see that your students could listen to the text, or individual students who is working on with those modules. And our aim was to create text interesting to the students, and also we want the content reflect current school setting in Russia. Before modules were published, we discussed this text and the teachers with the teacher participants in our startup program. We were very attentive for all suggestions and recommendations, and many Russian teachers, including us, using these modules in the classroom. And my colleague, Katerina Ratushnyuk, will continue to talk about other parts of this work.
Okay, and I would like to talk more how practically these models can be used. So all of us always look for something that can be implemented in a classroom, or something we can suggest to our students to work independently on. And this is something that fastly can be implemented. So as Betsy and Natasha already mentioned, that all these materials are free, and everything can be downloaded from the website really fast and can be used in timely manner. So for independent learners, this is an amazing resource, because they can actually download learning plans. They're very easy to understand. They can see what they can learn and what they can do with these materials.
Mm-hmm. Something with a computer, yes. I cannot hear Katya. You too? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Since our time it's kind of minimized, I would like to pass the opportunity to talk about the modules to Jane Shuffelton. Jane, are you mute? You're muted.
How much time do I have?
I know it's already 3:29, but you could have your 4 minutes to finish.
Okay. Let me, if I go past 4, cut me right off. Okay. I don't have PowerPoint to present, but I did write up something, and let me just do as much of it as I can. So my role in all this, and by the way, I'm delighted that ACTR made this opportunity available, and working with Natasha and Katya and Betsy is always a pleasure. They are fabulous. The prompts that Natasha and Katya produced were just unbelievable, especially one that I'm really going to talk about, or 2, I guess it is. So my role was to create activities called learning checks. Originally, they were kind of like assessments, but they aren't really assessments. There's things you would do as a class, with a class, or as an individual learner. They're all linked to specific proficiency levels and to actual can-do statements, and of course to the standards. And what really impressed me about the prompts I really want to talk about is how some of them exemplify intercultural standards as well. There are the materials about Russian schools in particular, to me, they're just brilliant. And I sort of almost jumped out of my chair when I saw them. They talk about school life in Moscow. And if you think about it, schooling is something that's part of the experience of anyone growing up in the former USSR or the Russian Federation. Everyone shares a set of common cultural products and practices, like dnevnik, like klasny rukovoditelь, like the different meanings of class in terms of school. But it's hard to find any references of those in textbooks, because textbooks are mostly written for post-secondary students. So I think this is a invaluable resource if you want your students to have a real sense of something that every Russian carries within him or herself. So for one of them, there's an interpretive reading activity that's called categories. We're reading a prompt about an American student's first day in a Russian school. Then they list as many vocabulary items as they can related to school. And then they group them into categories like objects, people, places, and they have to use the word class at least twice. The text manages to use all three of the meanings of class as a room, as a grade level, and as a group of students. And then the other one that I really like, it's like a summative assessment at the end of module of lesson 6. We found an authentic text or audio written by a Russian teenager about what makes a good klasny rukovodитель. And we use that as an audio. So here's what the students do. First, we give them a list of possible positive qualities that this teenager might mention. And they read that list, and then after that, they listen. And as they listen, they check all the qualities that she actually mentions. And then using that also, and the whole prompt, and in fact, the whole module, they then are asked to prepare a speech that they might deliver, very short, obviously, that they might deliver to a group of school administrators about similarities and differences between schools in Moscow and their own schools in the US. If they take it to the distance and start comparing, and then manage to mention some things that they actually see advantages in the Russian system of maybe having a klasny rukovoditelь who looks after you all the time, maybe studying together with the same group of students your whole career who are then going to be your friends for life. They are really taking a big step into cultural competency. I don't know if I have any more time, but I'll just try quickly mentioning some of the other kinds of activities. There's one called the ping pong rally, where they are reacting to a test and they just try to kind of keep a back and forth commentary going on as long as they can. There's one called Four Corners on it, because there's a sort of a statement like baseball очень популярный спорт США. And then they either are совершенно согласны, they literally, if you're in a classroom, go to one corner. They are согласны, they go to another corner. Не согласны, a third corner. Совсем or совершенно не согласны, fourth corner. And then with the one or two other students in each of those little groups, they talk about why they have that position of either totally in agreement or total disagreement and so forth. A presentational writing task. They're asked to write a thank you note to the host who takes them on an excursion around Moscow. They talk about, there are Venn diagrams comparing schools in the US and schools in Moscow. There are pictures of vocabulary items that, like in the apartment, that they're asked to identify with vocabulary from the prompt. There is another Venn diagram about free time activities. There are lots of yes, no prompt questions. I could go on, but just let me say each of the communicative modes is represented in both a reading, in both either a spoken or a writing form, so that there are both in interpretive listening activities and interpretive reading activities. There are interpersonal speaking activities and writing activities. There are presentational speaking tasks. I just mentioned the one about the speech to the school administrators, and there are presentational writing ones like the thank you note, like blog entries. Take your students there. We do need to put up the website where this is all available. See what you find, and I think you and your students will really enjoy it. And I think that's about as fast as I can talk, Natasha.
Thank you very much, Jane. And I already posted in chat link to the Start Talk page with our modules, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to talk to them more. I'm sorry, we are a little bit out of time at this moment. Do we have a couple of minutes for the questions, or how is our chat going?
Well, I'll say a couple of things, Natasha. We have a few comments and a couple of questions in the chat. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat. Please, for any of these programs, do go and visit the ACTR website, because some of your questions may be answered there. But if not, let's take a quick moment. I see one question about the Olympiada materials and how it is a really good time to keep updating those materials, right, as country changes, and especially for including those higher level cultural questions. And as Mara said earlier, we are trying to revisit these materials more frequently and provide updates and additions to them. So they're right now available in one long PDF, but we've been talking with Yevgeny about changing that. So they will also, we'll give him Word documents, shorter PDFs, so they'll be more manageable for teachers and accommodate changes and updates more smoothly. One question, if Mark is still with us, what are the possibilities of a virtual Olympiada this year, if there are regions and states that can accommodate that? I know many of us, even if we're not in school virtually the entire year, we have been told we cannot have any field trips outside of the building with our students this year, not anywhere, not local, not way far. So are there any opportunities for a virtual Olympiada? And I'll leave that to Mark if he's here, and he might not have an answer for us today.
I do not have an answer as of yet. Ruth and I will be convening a meeting of regional chairs at some point in August to explore the possibilities of alternative methods of delivery for Olympiada competitions in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of variables to take account of in an online situation. I dare say it would probably just be a kind of ad hoc arrangement. I don't think we're quite at the point where we would make the online Olympiada just an annual thing, because in large part, a lot of the benefit of the Olympiada experience for students is actually the opportunity to sort of get together with students of Russian at other schools. That would obviously not be happening to the same extent if it was happening at all in an online situation. But we will explore the possibilities. I think it's probably going to be easier for smaller regions to do online than larger, simply because there's a question of lots and lots of judges, and the more people, the more things can go wrong. But Ruth and I are definitely aware that we should look into some way to maintain continuity with Olympiada and give as many programs the chance, and their students, of course, the chance to participate as possible. So stay tuned.
Thank you, Mark. Mark, that's great support. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. We also had a question for our chairs of the National Russian Essay Contest. And the question concerned the judging process. Is it possible for you to explain the judging process? Sometimes it appears to teachers that a weaker essay might earn a higher medal and vice versa. And there's just a little confusion about that. So if Paavo or John are here, if you can explain that a little bit.
Yeah, Paavo, I'm not sure if you wanted to join in. I just thought this was a unique request, so I emailed them directly to Lydia. But just basically as an overview of the criteria, judges definitely look to see that, the writer is, staying on topic. Would a Russian speaker understand the essay, even provided mistakes in vocab, grammar, spelling? Other criteria include, context, lexical proficiency, vocabulary, originality, so good treatment of the topic, stylistics, so just style, fluency of language, grammar, syntax, orthography, I mean, general writing, organizational concerns in terms of, organization, let's see, there's not a whole lot of, essays should not be penalized for, simple spelling mistakes, provided that the essay is, legible, it could be understood, ideas are communicated, and that goes the same for punctuation. Paavo, I'm not sure if you're still here. Do you have anything to add to that, or?
You muted, Paavo.
I can jump in, but I mean, the bottom line is we're looking for a communicative essay. It's not an essay contest of, it's not a contest of grammar proficiency. That's not the prime consideration is, does it communicate on the topic in a way that makes sense to a, what's the word I want? Flexible native speaker.
Absolutely. Amen.
And there's no points. It's not like, this gets you 95 points and this gets you 22 points. So, yeah.
And I think it's very much like the Olympiada. Sometimes we teachers might have an expectation of one of our students being like the so-called best or top student in our class, and they go to the Olympiada and another student just shines. It's their thing. It's what they can do, what they prepared for, and they came through, and we should celebrate those, especially those who scored higher than we ever would have expected as teachers. We just should be very thrilled with that. Thank you so much for your work on this. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and just one other point, Betsy, is just, if there are any essays that are disputed, our committee is, happy to receive any concerns and take a look at that, so I just wanted to.
Well, thank you. That's generous of you, but we don't want to overwhelm you with that because we know the judges are volunteers and do a wonderful job for us.
And well, yeah, and we want teachers and also students to be happy with what they've done.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sometimes the appearance of the essay is also important for the assessment that you give to it. Sometimes it may be better Russian, but really sloppy, and then you think the student didn't really care too much when he or she was writing. So that's also a factor.
Thank you, Mara.
We are almost at 3:44. I think we brought so many questions that really need to discuss and have more time for that. And we definitely will. And thank you very much for your active participation and your input. And a special thank you to the chairs and co-chairs of the ACTR programs for their leadership and support. And thank you very much for all participants. Anybody would like to say something, or we done for the day?
Can I say one last thing, that if you were part of the conversation on inclusivity, I think we do have a chance to really broaden our approach to Russian culture, and not just Moscow and Petersburg and male Russian writers, but this is a moment to, spread it out a bit. Other cities, other ethnicities, other writers and singers and artists and so forth.
And please be active, write to us, contact us, and like previous presenters mentioned, write about interesting and important things for you in your program, and we will be happy to publish this in the ACTR newsletter. Спасибо. До свидания.
До свидания.
До свидания.
Спасибо, Наташа.
Спасибо, всего хорошего.
До свидания. Спасибо.
До свидания.